Are you smart or are you stupid? I'm not trying to offend anyone out there. Before you get your panties in a wad, this is meant to be slightly a joking video. However, the thematic material is kind of serious. I wanted to talk about something which I recently heard about and I found it really, really interesting. And it has to do with expectations. Now, I recently heard about this experiment, I guess, that they did and this really blew my mind. So that's why I immediately wanted to jump on here and share it, despite that my words might be not as elegant as they might be otherwise. Anyway, I recently found out about this experiment that had been done with these rats. And what my understanding was that they essentially did with these rats was labeled, and I think even verbally called these rats smart and dumb. They had two different groups of rats. And I know how incredibly judgmental that sounds before anyone jumps on that. I know. And also, I found it really interesting because do you know what happened? Interestingly, and I swear I'm not making this up. Hopefully I'm not getting the story wrong. Essentially what happened was these rats responded to instructions according to the labels that they were given. What? Like actually what? So again, I'm going to repeat myself for those of you in the back or wherever. These rats were separated into two groups or three groups, because usually in scientific experiments, there's the control group, which doesn't get messed with at all. Then there's one group that gets messed with on one side of the spectrum and one group that gets messed with on the other side of the spectrum, whatever those two options would be. Yes, no, whatever, green, red, go stop, go no stop, etc. So anyway, two groups of rats, smart rats, quote unquote, dumb rats, quote unquote. And what they did, I guess, was give these rats tasks. And what fascinated me in a honestly horrifying kind of a way was that dependent upon what these rats were labeled with, smart or dumb, the rats responded accordingly. So if you don't understand what I'm saying here, what I'm saying is that literally, according to a label, a physically, I'm assuming handwritten label that said smart or dumb, and these rats were labeled accordingly. And maybe they were told things accordingly. I honestly am not sure about that part. I don't know how far they went with emotions or anything of the rats in this experiment. At any rate, from just the labels alone, my understanding was that these rats then, given the same instruction, would perform differently according to their label. So if they were in the dumb rat category, let's say that I don't know if this is part of the thing. I'm making this up for the sake of tangibility of the example so you guys can understand better. Let's say that the task that the rats were given on the whole was to push a specific lever. Let's just say there was, I don't know. Again, I don't know how this specific experiment worked. I will look it up and maybe do a follow-up video on all this with the specifics if you guys are interested. So anyway, let's say that the task was to push a lever. So they would give these two different sets of rats the same task, push the lever. The rats that were labeled as smart could figure it out for the most part. And the ones that were labeled as dumb couldn't figure out what to do, couldn't figure out how to push the lever, couldn't figure out maybe where the lever was. So again, if you're lost, the reason that I'm saying all this and giving all these crazy examples is because I want you to understand something, you the viewer. You, my friend, you, the viewer, you, family. Labels have a lot of power. You've heard me speak about words having immense power, and thus, shocking, words, which labels are, labels have power. And thus, I urge you to be careful with what labels you place on people, places, and things, quite honestly. The meaning, I guess, also is attached to that. However, the labels is what I'm inviting you to pay attention to in this specific video. What labels are you putting on things? And understand that as wild as it is, that things respond according to their label. Let's say your phone. Let's say you talk negatively to your phone, and this kind of comically plays into the AI video that I did about why I talk to my technology, why I name my technology, which go see that video if you're interested. I'll link it at the end of this one. So what I want to encourage you to examine today in this video is the labels that you put on things. And more specifically, if I'm being honest, what I really want to get to the core of is any labels that you may have allowed others to place on you, or that even you may have placed upon yourself. It's really, really interesting. So when this mentor was talking about this experiment with these rats and telling us how when they were labeled in these two different groups as smart or dumb, quote unquote rats, that they responded according to that label, I was shook. It took it home for me because, rats don't have necessarily the highest brain processing as, say, compared to a human being who has a lot more of a computer up here. And yet, even just on their understanding of reality as it is, that label was powerful enough to dictate how they responded. That a smart rat by label was actually smarter, and a dumb rat. My point in this, again, if it's not quite clicking, is how you talk to yourself, particularly. Because if you're saying these mean things to yourself, for example, then you are, in a way, calling yourself a dumb rat. You are therefore reinforcing this negative belief and something which in fact isn't even true about yourself, a disempowering belief you're giving power to. And again, this was like a huge holy cow aha moment for me. That is insane. I mean, I also think it's kind of wild that words have that much power. And again, why I'm inviting you in this video to choose your words, to choose your labels, to choose the meanings that you give things very wisely. Understand that if you're conscious and awake, that's our power with being awake and conscious, is that we get the option in every single second, as I've said before, in every single day, every minute, every hour, every single thing is always a choice. So the question I would invite you to ask yourself at the end of today when you turn off this video is, who gave you these labels? And when I say that, what I mean is investigate yourself. Find out who you are, what do you know about yourself, and get to know yourself. Because you do not have to accept labels that were put upon you by anyone else. In fact, you don't even have to accept any labels, really, if I'm being honest. You probably don't have to have any. The reason I think that most people do use labels is because that's how we distinguish one thing from another. That is honestly the only reason that there are differences in life in general, is how we distinguish you from me. Even though if you get more cosmic about it, we all know that we're all one. And so technically there is no you and me. We are all one. So therefore I am you and you are me. And yet we are also ultimately unique expressions of the divine as well. So although you are me and I am you, you have a different skill set than me right now. And we are both incarnated on earth. P.S. Thank you for being here. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So glad you're alive. And we get to have fun with that. Understand that labels have power, and the labels and words you speak to yourself and the things you affirm for yourself will have way more power than you probably even think. So to be cautious with those and choose them wisely. If you're going to label something, make sure it's a label you want. If you're going to talk to yourself, make sure you talk with love, because there is really, if you have a choice between talking crap about yourself and boosting your own self up, why wouldn't you lift yourself up? Because at the end of the day, again, we only have ourselves, and you're stuck with yourself no matter what. The only thing in life we can't run from is ourselves. And so you might as well get cozy and familiar and learn to become ally with yourself. And it is that fact alone has really, really, really helped me lately. So I hope it helps you. If this video has indeed helped you, please do share it with anyone you think it may serve. Subscribe, as it really helps out a small content creator like myself. And last but not least, if you, my beautiful spirit soul, need any help, support, or coaching, you can reach out at this email address here, and it would be my pleasure to serve you. And I hope you have a beautiful, blessed rest of your day. Namaste, much love, and stay healthy. See you in the next one. Bye. I'm not trying to offend anyone out there. Before you get your panties in a wad, be sober all the time. It's good for you, kids. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. If you're going to talk to yourself, make sure you talk with love. And I could not be more serious. Oh, that's funny.